A very pleasant good afternoon to all the participants who have joined with us today on this faculty development program on higher education for the 21st century, important factors that shape the role of the academic today, which has been organized by the Center for Faculty Development of Geeta Jeevan Arts and Science College, which is affiliated to Mananmaniyam Sudhana University, Tirunelveli, Thoothukudi and Tamil Nadu State, India. So today we have a great and most energetic professor. Even at the very old age, he is that much of energy. So we're happy to have Professor Stanley Oliver, who is the Dean Doctoral College of United Kingdom, who is actually for the past, I think, 7-8 years, I know him very personally. So that, it is indeed a great privilege for us to have Professor Stanley Oliver here. So before getting into this FDP program, I request our beloved principal of the college, Dr. S. Malarkudi, to kindly welcome the gathering. Over to Dr. S. Malarkudi, ma'am.
Good afternoon. The most respected and honorable dignitary and the chief guest of today's program, Faculty Development Program, Dr. Stanley Oliver, the Honorable Secretary of Geeta Jeevan Arts and Science College, Mr. Jeevan Jacob, sir, the organizer of this Faculty Development Program, Professor Dileepan Kumar, and the Assistant Coordinator, Professor Malati. And good afternoon, and to all the professors who are joining along with us. A very pleasant good afternoon to all of you. Now, education is the only weapon that can change the entire world. Today, government, business, communities, and individuals recognize the critical role of education that education plays in supporting the political and social cohesion, economic growth, and production, as well as the personal development and fulfillment. So at the same time, the global economic and geopolitical landscape is changing. Simultaneously, the higher education industry is also changing rapidly, and the status quo is being challenged. So higher education institution must think globally and develop a strong student and wider stakeholder value proposition, which differentiates them from their competition. So in this context, Professor Stanley Oliver, Dean Doctoral College of United Kingdom, has joined with us in this faculty development program to deliver a special lecture on higher education for 21st century, the important factors that shape the role of the academic today. So on behalf of, on behalf of Geeta Jeevan Arts and Science College and the Center for Faculty Development, the organizing team of this program, the professors from our college, and the professors from various other colleges and institutions, and the various academicians who are participating in this program, I take this opportunity as my privilege to welcome Dr. Stanley Oliver. A hearty welcome to you, sir. Welcome you. And next, I would like to welcome Mr. Jeevan Jacob, who is our secretary and who is always a supporting personality in all our endeavors. I express my warm welcome to Professor Dileepan Kumar, the head of the Department of Business Administration and the program coordinator of Center for the Faculty Development, and the assistant coordinator, Professor Malati, and the professors and the HODs of Geeta Jeevan Arts and Science College, and other faculty members and other professors who have joined in this program from various colleges from Tamil Nadu, all over India, and as well as from various parts of the world, from various countries, they have joined in our program. So I welcome you all to this faculty development program. A hearty welcome to you all. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that very nice introduction, and good day to everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do you want me to, Dr. Malakudi, for the nice welcome. It is indeed a great privilege again to have Professor Stanley Oliver with us today. So not taking much of the time, I request our beloved Professor Stanley Oliver to kindly take over the session. Over to you, Professor. Yeah.
Thank you very much for those very kind words, and good day to everyone. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you today, to talk to you about higher education, higher education for the 21st century. But more than that, what is it to us as academics? What does that mean? What are the important factors that shape the role that we are involved with as academics today? And it's changing immensely. I'll share my screen with you now, and
it's visible, Professor.
It's visible. Good. That's nice. Thank you very much. When I come to write the presentation, coming up with the title was quite difficult, because I started with the confusion that we're faced with as academics. You know, the demands of our students, the constraints of our universities and the colleges we work for, the targets our governments place on the universities and colleges of higher education, especially in the UK, and I imagine it's very similar in India from my experience of working in India. And the constant influx of new technologies and other influxes of activities that influence what we have to do as academics today. And around that, I was also thinking, but how do we become competent and build our capability in this demanding, changing and fast-moving world of higher education? So they were the areas that I was thinking about this. And I've been lucky enough to be involved with a lot of different things in higher education over the last few years. I'll tell you a little bit about me first, so that you understand where I come from. I started life as a mechanical engineer. My first degree was in mechanical engineering, and I spent over 20 years in the automotive industry. I moved as a very young man to America and worked in Detroit, and I lived in Dearborn and worked for Ford, and I did that for about 5 years. I then moved to Germany and spent a few years in Stuttgart working for Mercedes. And then I spent some time in Japan with Nissan. And during that time, I actually came to India a few times and worked with Maruti Suzuki, worked with Ford at their crash center, and got involved in Tamil Nadu when I got involved with India Pistons in the amalgamation group in Chennai and Coimbatore. And that was over 40 years ago. So I've been lucky enough, in my opinion, to have been engaging with India for over 40 years. I moved out of industry in a quite appropriate time. I felt it was a calling to coming into education. I really enjoyed the times I was invited when I was in industry to go into universities and give guest lectures to universities. And I started that at the University of Michigan in Detroit. And then throughout my life, did it in many other places as before I moved into university life. And in 1985, Nissan brought their manufacturing plant to Europe, and believe it or not, put it in a place very near to my hometown in the north of England in the UK. And it was round about that time that I was looking to come into education. I started applying for roles, and I got interviewed at Cambridge, got offered a job at Cambridge, but I also got offered a job at University of Sunderland. And that role was to work with Nissan, and I had associations with Nissan, so I was pretty keen on that role. And the pull to come home and work with near my family and my parents and my brothers and sisters and other members of our clan was too pulling. And my wife was very much up for that. So we moved to the northeast of England. I worked for quite a while at University of Sunderland. Then I went to University of Bolton, where I was acting pro-vice chancellor and executive dean for a number of years. And nicely, one of my doctoral students from Bolton's just won an honorary MBE, and he's a student who came out of Hyderabad. came to the UK and studied with me for a number of years. He became a member. I appointed him as a member of faculty. He eventually went on to be the Deputy Vice Chancellor at Bolton. I believe he's on his way back to India to live the rest of his life. But after I finished working in higher education, I decided to get involved with international universities, and I moved to India, and I did a few years at Karunya University, which I'm sure some of you know, and most certainly one or two of you today might know me from my time at Karunya. I then came back to the UK and spent another few years at University of Northumbria, where I was director of their distance learning, their online learning, and their staff development activities in the business school. And over the last few years, I've been working with Northumbria and Perth College campus of the University of Highlands and Islands in Scotland, and my old university, University of Bolton, while I've been establishing doctoral college. And I really just focus in now on research and research activities with academics who predominantly do their doctorates with me through UK universities. But throughout all of these last 20 years, I've worked with the British government as a quality assurance agency inspector and reviewer. But as we move forward, looking at today's presentation, we've got a number of things that we need to consider. The impact of how COVID is changing universities. We've all had to, at some stage, move to remote teaching. Remote teaching is an impact response to the pandemic. It's not distance learning that's planned, but everybody's becoming proficient at it. So when we come back to normal life, if what we think or what we want is normal, it will never be the same. We've changed. This pandemic's changing us. Our expectations are changing. But if we look at the problem in higher education today, you know, what are the important factors? And if we were today sat in a room together, I'd be saying to you, what do you believe are the important factors for you as we move forward? I'm going to talk to you about the causes of the problems that we have. You know, and I'm going to talk to you about a well-researched and evidence solution that I'm involved with a number of different universities in Africa, in the Middle East, in Bahrain, in one or two in India that I'm talking to as well. So looking at the impact, where are we? What are we trying to do? Basically, COVID-19 is in the headlines everywhere. And I know India is really having a big problem with it at the moment, but it will reshape what we're doing. It will change our humanistic attitudes to life. And it will have a long-lasting, far-reaching impact on education because it's going to change our environments. There's going to be a lot of personal feelings coming up. There's going to be mistrust. Relationships will be difficult to maintain because we're not seeing each other. And the humanistic part of us as people want to be able to see each other, to look each other in the eye, to build trust. But if you look at the climate of the economies of the world, they've been on the edge of change for a while. So this pandemic is just accelerating where we're going. And universities are already having to grapple with many of those challenges that are the outcome of a long period of success and boom. So the problem today, as I said, is about the demands of students, the demands of the university, the demands on governments, on our universities, which end up impacting on us as academics, the demands that are placed on us because of the new technologies that are around and what they're doing to us, to our environments, and what the expectations are of us as academics. And then in with that is our personal desire to be successful. If we look at the demands of students, for start, our students are always, before they come to university, before they choose the college they want, they're looking for the best place to get their qualifications. Rankings are important in the students' or the parents of the students' eyes. Where we stand as a college, where we stand as a university, regionally, nationally, globally. And then students look to see about what their learning experience might be like. What's the quality of the staff? They look at our qualifications. They look at our publications. They look at lots of things around us. Or they look at the university and the college and see, are they working overseas? Are they working with industry? They also look at the testimonies, the testimonials of our past students. How strong are our links with our past students? And then they're looking at their careers. What are the links for in the workplace? What jobs, what careers can I get through studying at that university? That's the demands our students place on us before they get into the classroom, before they give us the challenge of teaching them and making them more knowledgeable. The demands of the university. There's large demands there, big demands all round. The need to achieve a more effective forms of capacity building for 21st century workers and citizens. You know, if you look at the nature of work, it requires that graduates acquire a broad base of skills from across the disciplines. And these skills need to be flexibly deployed in different work environments across a lifetime. These skills need to overlap with the demands of citizenship, skills which require capacities to reflect upon and engage with questions of public importance in an informed way. In a world where science and technology are major drivers of social change, historical, ethical, aesthetic, and cultural competencies are more crucial than ever. At the same time, the complex and often technical nature of contemporary issues in democratic governance demands that well-educated citizens have an appreciation of the nature of technical knowledge and of its historical, cultural, political roles in national and global democracy. But if we look at the need to draw on the untapped potential for innovation and collaboration within and beyond the university, we start to see that this is a complex social, technological, and environmental problem of today that demands creative solutions that are humane, technically robust, and effective. Giving students broader capability for critical thinking and creative innovation has the potential not only to create a workforce and university that effectively confronts these problems, but also it offers the opportunity to uncover points of connection and synergy way beyond academia, and may open new and exciting opportunities. In short, a commitment to a more integrated education has the potential to push the university towards a more integrated institution. But in amongst that, the thing that's rising up in the UK, and it's rising up around the world as well, is the need to cultivate more robust cultural, ethical commitments. Commitments to empathy, inclusion, and respect for the rich diversity of human identity and experience. If I look at the demands of the UK, you know, what's they're asking of us. We're finding that the UK is asking us to widen access to our universities. And what they're asking us to do is to help improve the representation of disadvantaged groups in higher education. And government's making lots of noise about that. They've done that for a number of years. They've always said university is for the elite few. That's no longer the case. I go back to what the principal said about education. It's a weapon for everybody to progress in their careers. I agree with that totally. I was one of those young people many years ago who came from a very working class village. And education was my route out. I was fortunate enough to get employment, but I was well directed by my parents to go and seek out the passion that I had. And my passion was in engineering, the curiosity of making things work. And because of that passion, I was passionate about vehicle design, automobiles, motorbikes, those types of things. I didn't want to maintain them. I knew how to do that. That wasn't difficult. I wanted to design them, innovate them. So I looked for a company to get a job with, and that was me building my capability and access to university one day. The university's pitching teaching excellence is a very important part of what we need to be doing. This places teaching at the heart of the university experience. And what they're doing is placing measures designed to enhance contact time with the students by bringing a sharper focus on the quality of teaching. This focus is designed to provide incentives for those who improve their teaching. And I've been doing research in this area for a lot of years, and it's something I really believe in. And I'm really pleased that last year I won an award for best teacher in my university, one of the universities I was teaching at. I find that quite satisfying still to this day, that the young generation still like to listen to me. But I don't teach through didactic teaching. I don't throw knowledge at the students. I facilitate the students to find the knowledge, to engage with that knowledge. I have them engaging with the latest knowledge, research articles. We then challenge understanding in all of those aspects of learning. It's well known that students who learn through didactic teaching, just throwing knowledge from books at them, old knowledge in actual fact, only retain about 5% of what they learn 5 years after they've studied. But those who've done a doctorate, 5 years after they've finished their doctorate, if you ask them about their doctorate, have actually retained over 80% of what they've learned because of the way in which they've engaged with the knowledge. And it's that form of independence of getting the knowledge through research does for you. And somehow we need to start embodying that into our teaching. The government's embarking on market reform, and what they're doing here is they're opening the door for competition at higher education levels. They're making private universities in the UK possible. They're giving degree awarding powers out to those who can justify being awarded those capabilities. They're telling us as well about how our rankings are important as a college, nationally and internationally, and how our subjects in those rankings are important as well because they're being ranked. Most of us at universities in the UK are giving our students a voice, and we're having them represent the student body in our colleges at various academic levels throughout our academic boards, our advisory committees. we're listening to what they're saying about their learning journey. And then at the other end, we're listening to the needs of industry. Government's always pushing us to engage with industry, to try and create the qualifications that develop graduates to be the products, the fit for purpose people that industry needs to take industry forward in the future. If you look at the demands of the constant influx of new technology, we see that there's a lot of current trends in new technology, and they show that the way that employees work, including where they work, when they work, why they work, and who they work with. These trends illustrate movement that will change the way we work completely over the next decade, and with the way we work having little resemblance to as it is today. And I don't know whether I'm lucky or unlucky, but because I got involved with distance learning or online learning more or less 10 years ago, I've had the pleasure of engaging with these new technology, the analytics of what I do while I'm talking to you. And it will change how I work in the future, I'm sure. And I think universities and we as academics need to be prepared for that and what is coming. What I've found by reviewing this is that these trends provide me with 6 ideas about the future direction of the workplace and how universities can prepare for it. If we talk about this new work philosophy, we talk about how it will eliminate middle management. And if we look, for example, at the current situation, teams comprise of a group of people pulled together by the reporting structure of the university or the college, or in some cases in an ad hoc fashion. Teamwork is seen, therefore, as something that is a behavioral necessity to foster team spirit and collaboration. It's not a legitimate organizational principle, something we've tried to build. However, the trends that I've been looking at suggest that in 2028, the complexity and scale of business objectives will demand the involvement of brain power and expertise across boundaries in more intricate ways. I believe that by 2028, trends suggest that employees will use avatars, language software, conversational interfaces, and real-time dialect translation to work and speak with team members. I see that already in the tools that I'm using. As well as that, organizations will therefore need to gravitate towards a new working philosophy called what I think is going to be the way we work, we working. In other words, communities of practice. This philosophy, in my opinion, involves designing small, flexible teams in response to fluctuating workloads. And we all know that if you've been involved with workload management, how difficult it is to workload your teams. And that's coming about because of shrinking timeframes and intense flurries of information exchange and coordination. I believe WeWork will encourage businesses in universities to create small, autonomous, high-performing teams that form, converge, act, and dismantle as assignments change, fueled by the autonomy and trust among teammates. I believe WeWork will reduce the need for human managers to assemble teams and monitor performance. This will need to involve effective change management, and it will require academic leaders to work closely with HR to invest in solutions that identify worker skills and competencies and modify worker profiling tools to display portfolios of work rather than job titles. Academic leaders will also need to consider human capital management technologies to keep pace with talent demands and realities. If we start looking at the constant upskilling in digital dexterity that we will need, this will outweigh tenure and experience in the future. I believe that by 2028, the most high value work will be cognitive in nature, and academics will have to apply creativity, critical thinking, and constant digital upskilling to solve complex problems. It's important to realize that the demand for digital skills has grown by 60% over the last several years. However, in today's digital economy, that demand will increase for new ideas, new information and new academic models that continually expand, combine and shift into new projects and new programs. Academics will therefore need to consistently refresh not just their digital dexterity, their knowledge generally, to meet these needs. For universities, this means a growing proportion of jobs will require higher qualifications. In other words, everybody will need a doctorate. We'll be looking beyond doctorates, postdoctoral research, for example. They will have to establish and promote a continuous learning environment, meaning knowledge acquisition and transparency across the university must become a part of the day-to-day operation. I think universities will need to experiment with non-traditional staff development, and academics will need to constantly unlearn and relearn. What will that look like? For example, boot camps, workplace secondments, more consumerized learning where we go and find the learning ourselves, competitions and hackathons and loads of different things that tests our digital dexterity. I think extreme work choices will blur boundaries, businesses and buddies. So because we get into the university at the moment, I think technology will take us away from the university more often. Digital universities and digital business will build on vast networks and ecosystems. It will increase the distribution of work across communities of people and across universities and global businesses. The flexibility and movement of all of that will be wider and greater and deeper. I believe that by 2028, employees will use avatars and language software, conversational interfaces, and real-time dialect translations to work and speak with team members. I've mentioned that before. It'll change the borders of where we work and the cultures that we work with. And yet we'll not lose context and meaning while we're doing this. In this kind of system where people may not know one another, everyone will be rating each other on trust, competence, and ethical behavior. Much as people rate buyers and sellers on purchasing platforms. Technology will start to be used to assess when people have worked too much and when they need to recharge by monitoring their biorhythms. nutritional requirements and exercise needs will be popping up, telling us we need to go for a walk. You've been sitting at the computer too long. Those types of activities. And as the business and university landscapes change, our academic leaders must use technology and information to build a hybrid workplace, physical and digital, that embraces the work styles of all their employees. And in our case, our clients, our students, not just for those who are permanently employed or have strong digital skills. Academic leaders will need to consider the impact on the university values and culture while managing the influx of new and transitioning talent. They will need to be clear about critical roles, which need long-term continuity and organizational knowledge about the university, and distinguish these roles from other roles that might be filled by temporary employees, temporary academics, part-time academics. That change is already happening in the UK. I've seen that over the last few years. We may find, and I do think we're moving there, and I remember the time when I worked in manufacturing, I never ever thought I'd see robotics take the place of humans the way it has over the last 20 years. The same thing's going to happen in our work lives. Smart machines are getting smarter and more ubiquitous, not only completing tasks previously reserved for humans, but also what was thought to be impossible for machines. By 2028, companies will start to increase the functions of smart machines, software, apps, and avatars. We'll find as academics, we'll develop personal toolkits. We might create our avatars, our twins, our virtual doppelgangers, our virtual counterparts, you know, our equals. We will talk to them in the same way. And with the help of artificial intelligence, the software and devices that are more accessible will become personal and team-based to our activities. What is more, we will have the ability to carry out this in our virtual workplaces, our personal workspaces, something that we feel we own. We'll use cloud communities, open application, and personal virtual assistants, I'm sure. I think extreme digital dexterity will ultimately be the modus operandi for how employees work, how we as academics work in 2028, increasing demand for a more automated workplace. This will spark the killer combination of academics and technology. I think if we're the leaders in colleges, and I'm most certainly looking at being proactive in this way, I think we need to investigate how the regular use of artificial intelligence, smart software, and robots might invigorate some of our work strategy and give us some competitive advantage, especially when we have the ability to research these areas with our staff and make them real subjects that we teach. We'll start to see that high-performing academics will shine in this environment, but they'll need to be encouraged to create and share this artificial intelligence, the tools that they develop, or the personal portfolios of application tools and smart technologies that they're using. And this will raise the bar for extreme digital dexterity that we will have. I think we'll work for purpose and passion and not just money. It's most certainly where I am today, but I guess I'm at a stage of my career where that was inevitable. When you've earned enough money to, if your needs are not high, then it's easy to be comfortable and passionate about what you do. Increasingly, I believe academics and employees will want to make a meaningful social impact. And I think the younger generations are demonstrating this, and we're doing it earlier in our lives instead of waiting until we retire. I think there's a lot of young activists around. In 2028, I believe people will actively seek opportunities to tie the impact and value in their work to their purpose, to their mission, to their passions. I think they'll do this by viewing other people's posts on social media, which will motivate them to get more involved and contribute to social innovation and equitability. Smart companies will make themselves more attractive, not solely by money, but by offering employees an opportunity to have socially meaningful impact through work. I think colleges and universities will need to build a message that resonates and drives engagement by creating initiatives for our academics to come forward with personal stories, experiences, and successes in various social causes. There's also a downside to everything with all these changes, and work-life challenges, I think, will reveal a dark side. I think employees working independently or in a remote location will face a dilemma to fuel upskilling and manage better projects. They will take on more work assignments, potentially to a point where they feel like they are working around the clock. And this is in response to achieving work-life balance, but in actual fact, it will no longer be enough. Employees will strive to emphasize life over work. Eventually, technology, I believe, will assess when people have worked too much. I've said that earlier, by looking at biorhythms, by looking at exercise needs while we work at the computer. I find that demand on me is great because I work quite a lot with India, and you're 4.5 hours, 5.5 hours ahead of us in the UK throughout the year. So that means to engage with you, I have to be up quite early in the morning sometimes. And I've seen me up at 4 o'clock in the morning preparing to present for, a start at 9 o'clock. But I'm at the other end of the spectrum as well, because I work with the US in Canada. And when I work with them, it's late into the evening. So my day becomes a very long day. In that, in some respects, is the shadowy aspect of the work-life balance that I might perceive for everyone in 2028. As technology closes the divide between geographically separate people, India, UK, America, it will introduce cracks in relationships and cultures. So you have to work harder to keep it strong, something I do on a daily basis. I regularly, I'm speaking in WhatsApp with people in India, people in China, people in Africa, people in the Middle East, people in Amsterdam, people in Germany, people in New York, people in Seattle, people all over. And I think that it will introduce those cracks, and we'll need to be conscious of how hard we have to work to keep those relationships. It means that this remote work, many people will not build social relationships in the workplace online, leading to issues of disengagement and a feeling of loneliness. And therefore, the importance of our family around us becomes greater. So from that point of view, colleges and universities must work hard to ensure work-life balance swings back and forth for each employee as their work distribution, time and life stages change. The ability to peer into the future will make work infinitely easier for university leaders and college leaders. We need to have that vision. It's an important aspect for us. If we look at the personal desire to be successful, academic success correlates with our desire to succeed. But what does academic success involve? In the UK, we've got a push for research excellence, and we need to evidence that through our innovative research, our publications, our doctoral supervisions. Only those that are successful. Funding that we might bring in. We also need to demonstrate our teaching excellence, and we need to evidence that through our innovative teaching, our student voice, and any of the employers that we get involved with, or any of the international people that we work with. We need to be looking at how we are enterprising with industry, regionally, nationally. And again, the same thing with international. How are we engaging with partners around the world? If I look at research first, our research, if we look at how we influence what we're doing with regards to rankings, I've done quite a lot of research into university rankings, and I've broken it down into where our contributions come in what we do as academics. The biggest one is in the work that we write and the citations that we do from our research. And then it's about our reputation, how we build our reputation. Over the years, I guess my reputation's grown, and that's grown because I've been engaging with a lot of international partners. I've been willing to get involved. I've been willing to give my time to it. You don't build your reputation with ease. Your networking and the trust that you build with everyone takes time. And you have to keep doing it because you can quite easily lose it if you don't continually keep in touch. How much money do you bring in? What research projects have you won? What awards have you got? No matter how small they are, they're relevant. What are you doing with your research? Where's it going? What's the impact of it? And then it's about things like, how involved am I with international students? Are they coming to do research with me? How involved am I involved with international staff? Am I publishing with them? How many international collaborations do I have? Am I involved with regional, local industry, or am I involved with international industry? All of those things are important questions. And then teaching. Notice how it's a smaller weighting than the research. But we can build it up to a greater weighting if we make it research-led teaching. Again, our reputation's high. What is the college university staff to student ratio? One doctoral teaching is valued much more than, say, undergraduate teaching, where it might be 200 to 1. The doctorates to bachelor's ratio, doctorates awarded to academic staff, institutional income, international, domestic ratios for students, for staff, for collaboration, and again, industry comes in as well. If we look at the national part of what we do, it's become more and more prevalent to us in the UK that we have to be working with our local companies, internships for our students, placements for our students, right? short courses that we run for industry to share the knowledge that we've gained from our research, bring industrialists in to do practitioner guest lectures, industrial visits for our students and for our staff to see how industry is doing things, and maybe research projects if we get the opportunity. Even secondments, staff secondments is another one. When we're talking about international enterprise, it becomes a slightly different change. You know, when we talk about research publishing, it's the research and teaching collaboration, doctoral supervision, projects, curriculum, dual programs, dual teaching. But let's look at the causes of the problem now. The causes of the problem is the pace of change. This demands academics work more closely with one another to be able to come up with integrated solutions in a more rapidly moving environment. Plus, it demands that academics extend their capabilities to meet and exceed educational goals. It is also forcing academics across the world to innovate and improve in a constant cycle that never turns off. And then there's the changing demographics and employee expectations. In the UK, we have really multicultural academics. This sees early career academics, millenniums as we're calling them, challenging their universities to focus on educational goals and purpose instead of just educational goals like we maybe did in the past. This is also challenging universities to attract a diverse range of workers, a full range of cultures in our universities, and bringing meaning to work with a focus to lifelong learning. And then we've got the constant influx of new technologies. This means that universities need to be able to operate and lead in an environment of continuous innovation, where what is coming next is often uncertainty. It also demands that university academics be tech savvy regardless of what position they're in. And last but not least, the changing expectations of our students. This is, I think, prompting universities to create a distinctly human experience that creates a personal connection to the student beyond the learning experience. It's also forcing a higher focus on risk and quality, as any single issue can quickly erode the value of the university. But what is the solution? Around all of this, if you think about it, what we've been doing is looking at the demands on the university, and the demands are around teaching, research, working with industry, working together internationally. In all of those, funny enough, are drivers for the rankings for any college or university in the global rankings tables. And what I've been doing at doctoral college over the last 10 years is researching that. And what I've been looking at is what you need to do to prepare for teaching excellence, looking at the whole learning environment and the learning journey of our students. I've been looking at preparing for research excellence. You know, what is it about? Is it about research power? Is it about volume, income, reputation, influence? Which are the keys? And I've been looking at industry and internationalization, industry around placements and knowledge transfer, and internationalization around staff, students, research, and again, knowledge sharing. I've started pulling together agendas, and I'm working with the University of Namibia in Africa to help them with their strategic agenda. And I'm helping talk to them about university brand and ranking, and it's all been driven by trying to achieve excellence. So the first thing is we need to see where we are in global higher education rankings and look at the future impact on the performance of universities generally, but on ourselves. Where are we? Where's our college? In the UK, the Quality Assurance Agency is regulating UK universities to make sure we maintain our standards and to assure quality higher education. They've introduced the UK Research Excellence Framework, and that's having an influence on UK universities on global ranking. It's introduced the UK Teaching Excellence Framework, and again, that's influencing the student learning experience, the student voice, the mobility of students, their choice of where to study. The UK has just brought out recently the Knowledge Exchange Framework. That's influencing how universities engage with industry and how they engage in international collaborations. And then the real key is, how do we get engaged with the impact of those rankings in our drive for excellence? We do that by trying to get the best staff. If our rankings go up, we attract better staff, hopefully. But at the same time, making sure we're always developing our current staff. We're after getting impact by attracting the best students. And if we do that, we need to listen to their voice. And throughout all of this, what we're trying to do is to build our brands, to create our position in society. Let's talk a little bit about the requirements so we understand where we're going. I've broken it all down, looking at the Times Higher Education, the THE World University Rankings criteria. I've broken it down into teaching, research, international outlook, industry income. And you can see the percentages. And if you look at research, quite a big impact from research. And if you look at teaching, there's a good chunk from there. In the other parts are small, but they should be, in my opinion, integrated within research and teaching. Let's look at building that. How do we do that? If we look at the teaching, the learning environment, we need to think about the students, the subjects, the reputation, the ratio of staff to students, the ratio of doctoral students. All of those things are measurables that we need to be considering. What is our learning and teaching philosophy? It's not just about the teachers, it's about our leaders as well. What are our leaders doing to inspire and empower us as academics to innovate? How are we creating student-centered learning focuses, moving away from didactic teaching, creating active, curious, independent learners, driving a philosophy which is research-led teaching? How are we training our staff to embrace this changing culture? How do we create communities of practice so staff do it autonomously and independently? How do we make sure our staff are qualified teachers and qualified researchers? In the UK now, you cannot get an academic job unless you have a postgraduate certificate in higher education and a doctorate. And if you haven't got them in the university wants you, you've got to be prepared to do them. If we look at research, many universities in the UK excel at teaching, but it doesn't have to neglect the research. It can be great research in their pedagogical areas. And if it's adult learning, in their andragogical learning in research areas. The real key is around citations, but again, we need leaders who inspire research and motivate and empower staff to do research. We need to look at the impact and the focus. We need to stimulate active, curious, independent researchers. And we need to drive the philosophy of research theory into practice. We need to train staff to embrace this changing culture. We need to get them involved with communities of research practice. We need to make sure that they're qualified. Internationalization. What do we want to do? We want to build partnerships, to get joint publications, joint research proposals, doctoral supervisions together, curriculum development together, joint teaching, dual qualifications, staff exchanges, student exchanges, and the list is endless. Similarly with industry, we need to be working with our industries to make sure our students get internships, placements, and future careers. We need staff secondments. We need to bring these specialists in for guest lectures, and we need to use these industries for visits for us, for our staff and for our students. We shouldn't neglect the fact that the subject rankings are also important. So within our subjects, we should go through the same process of everything that I've just said for universities. Heads of departments should be considering this. There are 13 indicators. And if we go back to that initial diagram, you could see how I've broken it down. We need to be publishing in getting citations within the Scopus database. And we can look at all of this ourselves, but we need to be doing this on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis. And if you think about it, we're talking about 90% of our activities is driven by research. The teaching part should be driven by research so that new knowledge is being exposed to our students, so that our staff are knowledgeable in these new knowledge areas, so that we're not engaging just with textbooks which are 10, 20 years old, and those theories have moved on in some cases. We need to be developing the boundaries of our research and taking that theory into practice more often. And we need to be sharing that globally. All of that is part of the methodology, the list of things that I've shown earlier. What do they mean though? Teaching is a measure of learning experience and equality at a university. It's based on the reputation among academics and statistics about staff, students, and research. We need to keep measuring that and improving that. Research is a measure of both the quality and quantity of research output based on reputation, research income, and productivity. We need to be monitoring that. And in the universities I work at, every year this was part of my assessment. I'd have to have some way to evidence what I was doing, which was innovative in my teaching. I'd need to evidence what I was doing with my research. One of the things is citations. I'm pleased to say, I mentioned earlier one of my dear students who's got this honorary MBE, member of the British Empire. There's a paper him and I wrote in 2006. We're still getting strong citations from that paper today. How many citations do we get a year? And then when we start looking at the international aspect, how big is our partnership network? One of the things I'm doing at Doctoral College is creating a platform to enable colleges to work with each other. So if any of you want to join that, I can get you interacting with Africa, I can get you interacting with Bahrain, the Middle East, wherever. We can talk on that. In industry, the same thing. We need to be working with our industries together to make it all available to a bigger audience. So the key statistics around all of this is about the student experience and the university environment. In the key areas that rank the performance are around student numbers, staff to student ratio, male to female students, percentage of international students. So they're quite key in the information that we gather. So when you think about the academic today, building our career, the teaching part is mandatory to us, but are you moving to a research-led teaching philosophy? Are you moving from didactic teaching? Are you trying to move your students away from passive learners to active learners? Are you trying to create the voice of your college in the future in the workplace? That's why we're doing it. But the key to teaching as well is research. Researching pedagogy, researching our teaching and learning, improving the knowledge, the subject areas for our teaching. Very important. Sharing it globally, sharing it with industry, bringing them in while we do the research. If we think about it, research influences teaching, industry, international activities, right? And it's all around knowledge sharing, knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange. We need to build that. And we need to build it in volume, together, in partnership. What I've been working on over the last 5 to 10 years, from all of this research that I've been doing, is building a 3 pillars framework for achieving excellence. Universities may use international partnerships to help them increase their research worldwide while building research power, teaching power, enterprise power. Yes, this may help with their ranking, but it will not create a system of continuous improvement and steady progress of the rankings long term. This needs a strategy with a vision and a mission that changes the current status to a culture of continuous improvement. Over the last 5 to 10 years, this situation I've researched deeply and come up with 3 pillars of focus, created a framework. It enables leaders in universities and colleges to focus on quality and excellence with a year-on-year continuous improvement plan to reach milestones of incremental step-by-step achievement. The 3 pillars framework has been developed with the International University Rankings methodology to create a framework to enable colleges to work towards improving their rankings. The first pillar is the staff development. The second pillar is about research impact. And the third pillar is about teaching excellence. It's not a short-term initiative. It needs to be long-term. It needs to be a lifelong plan of the college, which the senior executive team at the college university buys into, establishing this continuous improvement. Ranking is an outcome, but more important, better staff, happier staff, research staff, better students, happier students, everybody being successful. The areas that it breaks down into is with staff development, it's around culture change, quality and commercial focus to improve ranking. It's about research impact to build research power. It's about teaching excellence to establish in the UK what we call a gold standard. And then with regards to the research, it's about citations, reputation, income, what we produce, the impact that we produce. Are our international involvements with our students, our international involvement with our staff, our international collaborations, our involvement with industry. And similarly with teaching, reputation, staff-student ratio, doctorate to bachelor's ratio, doctorate awards to staff, institution income, international student ratio, domestics to international staff ratio, again, international collaboration income. I'm at the end of what I was going to talk about, but I'm not quite finished. Research, doctoral education has become of paramount significance in a world where knowledge is the new fuel, the ultimate commercial energy for economic growth leading to a knowledge-based economy. It builds our CV and helps us with our careers. It helps our colleges and our universities with our regional, national, international rankings, our brand, our positioning. It helps our students with new up-to-date knowledge, creating independent learners, giving them new skills beyond the bare knowledge that we've maybe given in the past. It helps us with our contacts with industry, with our knowledge sharing, with the industry being prepared to get involved with us. And it helps us build our international partnerships. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me, and I'd very willingly open the floor to questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Stanley Oliver, for the nice insights into this teaching, research, and the staff development. And really, it was amazed when we were come across with the last slide, that is 3 pillars of this improvement, and you have categorized the entire teaching into 3 particular pillars. One is staff development, research impact, and teaching excellence. And you have various parameters and certain criteria were also over there. So probably that will help us in developing ourselves to teach for this 21st generation. It hopes so. There were many research citations and many research innovation thing that you have touched today in the session. Literally, that will help us to come up more with the research oriented. Once we started doing a research, definitely the outlook of ourselves will be the perception. Everything will get differs. And there is one such part, and now the platform is open for deliberations. If any of the participants, if you have any questions or any queries that you want to ask with the Professor Stanley Oliver, the platform is open to you. You can either put forth your questions on the chat box or just raise your hand so that I can unmute you. You can even talk directly. Thank you all. Professor, there is one question that this generation is smart to the smartest. I hope you'll agree.
Yes.
But is this what the smartness will it take to digital dividend or digital disruption?
I think we're smart enough to avoid the digital disruption. I think the young people today use digital technologies as an extension of who they are. I look at my grandchildren, 9-year-olds and 11-year-olds, whose ability with technology is way beyond my expectations of what they can or can't do. They're doing online videos with each other, you know, things using technology in a way that we would use notebooks and pencils and paper when I was that age. I don't see disruption. I see only growth. I see innovation. I see the young people today being smarter. I just see the whole world changing, never to be the norm that we once knew. I think we, as academics and people who young people look up to, need to be chasing that goal with them. We need to be helping them, facilitating them, not being the person who owns the knowledge, but the person who directs them to the right places and makes them challenge what they're doing, makes their understanding deeper, creates communities for discussion amongst them, makes them understand the value of peers, you know, how everyone has a voice and that their peers have good voice as well. All of those things will come out.
Thank you, Professor. It was nicely said. There's one participant have raised her hand. It is Ms. Arputa.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, can go ahead, please.
Sir, during your presentation, you specified about teaching excellence. So could you please detail the ways to facilitate the students to experience with their knowledge? Apart from this hackathon, digital dexterity and influx the current technologies, whatever you have discussed about it, sir. Can you please specify the ways to facilitate the students to experience their knowledge?
yes. I think we need to, and this would be another session if ever you invite me back. The session I would give you would be on how do we stimulate our students' curiosity to learn? Because that's what we really want. We want them to be active, innovative learners. And we can't do that if we sit them in class and throw knowledge at them. What we have to do is change the way we teach. We have to create learning environments and learning experiences where we challenge their curiosity to find the knowledge, to engage with the knowledge, to use their peers to challenge their understanding and to come back to us with what they've learned. So we help them with their understanding of the knowledge that we've asked them to engage with. We can be very specific with the engagement. We can ask them to engage with research papers of the latest knowledge and the latest places of where the knowledge is we think they'll get the best benefit from. It's creating that environment. It's about changing to inquiry-based learning. And the best way to do that is through understanding learning theory. So what I teach is engagement with all the gurus of learning theory, going back to Piaget, coming through Vygotsky, through to the modern day gurus of learning, you know, Bloom's taxonomy, all of these various theories of learning. But the real key is, you know, how do we move them on? Some of them are still relevant today. I'm still a great believer in Vygotsky's theory, which is an extension of Piaget. He actually disputed many of Piaget's theories, but his theory was around using the knowledgeable other to gain your bits of knowledge. So in other words, when you're a child, you rely on your parents. They help you to walk. That's a skill set that they give you. They help you to talk, another skill set. They help you to engage with reading. So all of those things, working together in peers, in groups, as you do in the workplace, as industry expects us to work, you teach them how to do that by giving them the learning experience of an inquiry-based learner. So we need to be able to teach in that way. And there's theoretical stepping stones to be able to deliver it in the classroom. There's a methodology called the 5 E's. I'll tell you no more. Go and investigate it. Go and use it. And there's many more. It can go on. But it's those types of challenging changes that we need to implement. It needs to be part of our vision of where we're going. It's a total culture change for us. So instead of us owning the knowledge for the students, we have to own the knowledge because we have to be reading and up to date with everything. But we need to be getting the students to engage with the knowledge in different ways. So I would do a class that involves a couple of YouTube videos on the theory, some activities for them to work on. I'd have them working in small groups and peer groups. And I'd do that within the likes of Zoom. So I'd go into my breakout rooms, into classes, and there's lots of things I'd do. So it becomes a really enjoyable activity. But it takes time. Students don't sort of just step into this change in learning overnight. You have to build them up to it. You have to teach them how to learn this way. You have to motivate them. So I hope that answers your question. Yes? No?
Thank you, Professor. And the next question is like, you are talking about research. So people are nowadays very binded with the academic research alone. They have to go one step ahead of collaborating themselves with another institutions or universities across the globe, so that they maybe get benefited out of it, and their learnings they can even take it to the students and can make the students to grow, and the institution at a large, they can make the institution also to grow more. So that is what my opinion. What is your friend? What is your suggestion in this part, Professor?
What I'm trying to do is work with colleges so that, you know, I like to get involved in staff development. So I would work with the college on how do we develop our staff to be researchers who can take that research into our classroom. So if I was working with your college, say in a college in Africa and a college somewhere else, we might start communities of practice. You know, we working groups, as I mentioned in the presentation. And what we might talk about is, we might talk about researching, teaching and learning, or we might talk about researching social media marketing, or we might talk about, so it's about special interest groups coming together and talking about areas of research, a community of a specific practice. And then from that, challenging each other to go and gather some data, gather some evidence, and gather some knowledge and write a paper together. And once you start doing that, you're then starting to write international papers with the other international opinion. And I think if you do that and you do it in subjects that you're passionate about using, then you can take that to the classroom. So if I've been doing something with an academic up in Scotland, for example, at Napier University in Edinburgh, and we've been working on scaffolding techniques for online learning. And what we've been talking about, how we bring the practitioners' guru lectures into the classroom, and what are the real purpose of this? What in the past, we just would get these guru lectures, but they'd have no purpose for the students. So now we tailor learning outcomes around the lectures and with activities for the students to follow it up on it, and all of those scaffolding type techniques that go around it. And I think that type of research stimulates me. I'm still excited about that because I'm breaking boundaries about things that I'm doing. So yeah, I think it's about being able to be facilitated. I think the hard part for colleges is there is an investment in financial investments in getting their staff lifelong learners. There's some training developments. Then there's about how do we help build these communities. But innovative leaders are able to do that. And most certainly wherever I can help, I tend to sit down with quite a lot of senior academics and give them some ideas to start with. And where possible, I get involved myself. But there's staff are incredibly innovative. You know, I'm never surprised at how good the staff are. We've just got to make sure we're not holding them back too much. Okay, was that all right, Dilip?
Yes, Professor, that sounds good. That sounds good, Professor. So we'll come to the end of the meeting. If there is no questions, let me move on to the formal vote of thanks. It is indeed already the feedback and attendance link has been rolled out in the chat box. So participants, whomever have joined with us, you can even click on the link and you leave your attendance so that it will facilitate us to issue the e-certificate for you within a 1 week of time period. So before that, Principal Ma'am, any thank you note? Then we'll go with the formal vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Hello. Yes, we hear you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your nice presentation and your nice lecturing. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time along with us. The lecture is very much useful to us, and all the faculties are interested in listening to our class. It's very nice, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
It's been my great pleasure. And I hope I get the chance to speak to you all one by one, if you wish. most certainly the invitation's there to talk to me if you wish. Anyone?
Yeah,
Just
sure,
get it.
Professor.
Just get in touch.
As we have planned to go with it. Yeah, as we have
Yeah.
planned to go with an MOU in the near future, probably that will facilitate us to sit one-on-one for more discussion, both in terms of research, collaborations, and other programs in the institution. So hope we'll be keeping in touch with you in the coming days, and that will help us to grow more as an individual as well as an institution large. So again, we're happy to have you. So most probably will be adding you in the academic advisory board also as a member, so that continuously you can put forth your support and guidance in making the institution to the next level of growth. Thank you, Professor. So it is indeed a great privilege for me to propose the vote of thanks to the August gathering. At the outset, it gives me an immense pleasure to thank our beloved resource person and chief guest for today's program, Faculty Development Program on Higher Education for the 21st Century, Important Factors that Shape the Role of the Academic Today. Professor Stanley Oliver, who is the Dean of the Doctoral College, United Kingdom. So spending his valuable time is, again, it is a great privilege that what Geeta Jeevan Arts and Sciences College could have it, because he was continuously into research. He was guiding many PhDs. He is also into many innovative parts of the educational stream. So he used to work with many institutions across the globe, as well as with the students also and scholars in particular. So with all his busy schedule today, he has joined with us. I hope this is 1 hour session for you people. Earlier, to even select the topic and to have more about this particular FDP, we had a one-on-one session. Myself, I had a one-on-one session with Professor Stanley 1 week back, and we had a more than 1 hour of one-on-one discussion session with him to make this program a grand success. So such a dedicated and committed person is what Professor Stanley Oliver is. So it is indeed a great privilege to have you, Professor. So you have traveled all the way from UK and landed here in India for the past 1 hour, and we have delivered a very good lecture about research, innovative practices, as well as teaching pedagogy and the excellence in the staff development too. So thank you very much for being with us and sparing your valuable time, and for the nice insights in developing the professors community of our country. Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Next, I would like to thank our beloved Honorable Secretary of the institution, Mr. P. Jeevan Chakap, who is always a great source of support for us in organizing programs like this for the benefit and betterment of the society. So thank you, Mr. Jeevan Chakap, sir, for granting the permission. I would like to thank Dr. S. Malarkodi, ma'am, the principal of the institution. So whenever we ask, she's ready to render her help in organizing programs like this. So thank you very much, Malarkodi, ma'am, for your nice support and for the continuous encouragement and word of appreciation always. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to thank the assistant coordinator of this faculty development program, Mrs. Malati, who is the head of the Department of Mathematics, for her meticulous planning in making this program a grand success. Next, I would like to thank the HODs, professors, and the scholars, as well as professors from other institutions who have joined with us today as a participant. Nearly 80 participants has participated today in this program. I hope everyone have got benefited out of these things. Actually, many of us have mentioned here that the resource person, what he told, it is a great insights. You picked a nice resource person today. So many feedbacks are coming to me. So thank you all for your continuous participation. I hope if time permits, we'll have more sessions with Professor Stanley Oliver, sir, to take the institution, to take our individual learning practices, to make our research to the next level of growth in the coming days. So thank you very much, participants, for spending your time. Even admissions is a top priority right now for most of the institution, as well as the examinations are also planned by the university. With all these two categories, people continuously are participating in these development programs. I hope the success of this program lies when you start implementing it in your own institution, within your own students. So whatever the teaching techniques, what are the skill sets that we need to have for the 21st century system, kindly go with that skills, inculcate that skills, apply that skills to your fellow students, so that you can also grow, you can also upskill yourself, and you can make your students more skillful in the coming days. So thank you all. Once again, I thank you, one and all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. When can we have the next session, Professor? That is